Yeah, I can jump in. Can you guys hear me back there? Awesome. I'm going to give probably the less leadership technical answer. I'm going to say vibes. And here's why. When you work with a legacy in the spirits industry in particular, a lot of people have a story, right? There's some nostalgia there, whether that's a spirit that's passed down through generations. And I know if I ask anyone in this room, your experience, if you can recall your first experience drinking, typically is a negative experience. Most people are like, your first time drinking? How old were you? Okay, anyways. But the point is, when we encounter, influencers or even brand partnerships, we're looking for people that have a genuine story or connection with the brand. And again, we are trying to reach new consumers, so it is very important that we go out and we recognize there's an awareness gap for some consumers. But if there isn't a little bit of heart, a little bit of something in the soul that we can pick up from the consumer or from the influencer or the partnership, then it's probably not going to be a good deal. We're not here to convince you about Maker's Mark. We're here to find that authentic story to resonate. And so again, the vibes, but really it is that sense of ownership and heart and soul.
Okay, you guys, I don't know, but it is bananas town back here. And I can't hear anything that they're saying. So I'm just going to pretend like I heard the question and wing it. At Shopify, it's pretty easy. We are the entrepreneurship company. We are encouraging people to try, love, go out and do things that they might not normally do, to test something new, to be an entrepreneur. And so we are looking for people who embody that message, creators who are looking at themselves as entrepreneurs, as CEOs, as more than just content creators, but actually, those who are building businesses. There are hundreds, thousands, millions out there. So it's actually an easy task for us. We can work with just about anybody that sees themselves as an entrepreneur and wants their audience to try those things as well.
Yeah, no, you're good. I mean, I choose influencers based on how loud they chirp and how much impact they can make. No, I think first year in sports marketing for a team at the WNBA, but 20 years in brand marketing at retail and Pizza Hut. It's so interesting in sports, which is really about the live experience and, that really interesting dynamic of being able to be where your feet are and touch grass, and you're selling kind of not only a fandom of a team, but how to spend time in the experience economy and, enjoy something physical and in person. So when we select influencers, we're looking for people who are not in the sports. You can stay kind of just like for Pizza Hut, we could select foodie influencers, but how much more interesting is it in women's sports with such a growth industry to be able to select people who help us zig when everyone's zagging and introduce women's sports and the electricity of the WNBA to a totally different audience. So we look for influencers who are making impact, in retail, who are starting cool brands, or who are moms and, have a whole fleet of young kids that they're dragging around, and how to bring them to something that's interesting and electric. So we try to think about the impact someone can have outside of our sports ecosystem.
I can briefly just say, at Klear, we're small. We're just a couple guys, but we have a little bit of a reach. So our recent partnership with the National Parks Foundation wasn't necessarily an influencer, but we approached a specific product with a specific partner and said what we needed was a little bit of not just awareness with a consumer, but we needed some energy in retail that would sit with our great partners at Home Depot or our great partners at Walmart, where they can walk down and their customer can walk down an aisle. We're not a brand forward business, so I don't expect anyone to go to the store looking for Klear, but we're a product forward business. And so we were there for authenticity, but also just kind of the audience that the national parks, which is visited by over, I believe, 400 million people a year, which makes it more than every ticketed sporting event in America, in aggregate. But that's how we look at it. Where's the audience and where's the kind of credibility that we can partner with and kind of steal.
And Elyse and Cherice, what percentage of partnerships do you proactively go find versus reactive, something approaching you?
That's a great question. Maybe a good segue into, I think, the next question or similar question. So I think the short answer is we don't do a lot of partnerships, actually, with Maker's Mark. We do believe in finding authentic fits that pair with our values as a brand. And I believe everyone in here at this point watches women's sports, correct? Yes, I see the, yes. At least that's for you. Get those guys back there. Okay. So Maker's Mark is fresh on the heels of being the first official sponsor of Unrivaled, which again, hopefully everyone's been watching this season, and we'll have some great momentum with the WNBA. But I want to give a reason why, right? Yes, a lot of people are latching on to women's sports, but there's a reason why Maker's Mark in particular chose to go after really the first national partnership I think we've done in a very long time. So for those who are Maker's Mark consumers or aware of it, you may or may not know that it's co-founded by a woman. So while the Bill Samuels was responsible for the great liquid that we all consume, Margie Samuels was responsible for the iconic nature of the brand, the red wax, the hand-cut labels, and so much detail even at our distillery. And we still, to this day, 70 years later, go through all those perfectly unreasonable lengths to hand dip every bottle and hand cut every label. And so we have, for the last 70 years, always invested in women founders. And so, you know, we've touched sports. I see the Mavs are in the building. We've always touched, we've touched partnerships in the local level, but this was such the right moment to connect with Unrivaled, two women who are founding a league, right? Who are still players. But the lengths that they are going through actually to, you know, produce this league and maintain this momentum, it just felt like the perfect synergy for us. And it's been an amazing season. We have another season to go. But it really is down to the authenticity of that partnership. Is it believable? And it's not always the best, I shouldn't say the best, but it's not always the obvious answer, right? Because somebody may say, why not sponsor the WNBA? And for this one, it felt right to go in at that level and really kind of contribute to the cause that they were offering. Huh?
You proactively went and found them.
We did. We also had some increase as well. Yeah.
And at least, would you what percentage of your partnerships you proactively go out and seek, or you react to people sending you proposals?
I mean, I think it's you know, it's the same. It's about half. There's brands that we're interested in because we can see the potential. I think right now, beauty and like, I would say the two biggest things for us right now are like beauty, health and wellness, hair care, and beverage, both alcohol. And I mean, we just heard from the founder of Poppy across the street. That's like the beverage space is so interesting. So there's some that we will proactively go after because we think that the association between the growth of women's sports and some of these, you know, fast moving founder led brands are really strong. And then some people will come to us and say, we want to be part of a growth story and watch something rise at, you know, this fast moving up into the right hockey stick growth. So I would say it's about half and people finding that right kinship and relationship between their brands.
Speaking of founder-led, I know that there are influencers, athletes, celebrities who are creating their own social commerce platforms. Do you want to, from your point of view at Shopify, what's going on in that space where the influencers, athletes, celebrities are creating their own shopping platform?
Yes, I think not necessarily creating their own platforms, but becoming more than just distributors. I think in a previous world, it was brand meet influencer. We call them creators. And then they would distribute products on behalf of said brand. Now they are the owners, founders, CEOs on the cap table of the brands. And so that connection is far more meaningful. I mean, if anyone has kids here, they're not eating Hershey's anymore. They're eating Feastables. They're not eating, Sweet Tarts. They're eating Joyride from Ryan Trahan and Mr. Beast. They're, if you have teenagers, they're not shopping at Hot Topic anymore. They're shopping at Dairy Boy because Paige Lorenz is their favorite content creator. Like, it's just a different model now where people care about the people behind the brands. And like she said, I mean, founders are so important, and we've grown up with these people. They've seen them on YouTube and on Instagram. And so now I think the next $1 billion businesses will all be from the content creators that started as YouTubers and Instagrammers, but realize that their power for distribution is something that they should hold for themselves rather than continue to give it to brands who are just paying them for the partnership rather than being the revenue driver themselves.
And I'll add, what we do is, because we're not a brand focused business, we're not a brand forward business. A lot of the conversations we have that I can't discuss today are with those people who are looking to utilize our ability to do all the stuff they aren't equipped to do. So manufacturing, sourcing, scaling, and then using our ability to go into channel, and whether it's forecasting and all those types of things to speak to our other partners. So it's when I also look at partnerships to answer in my version of how many come in versus go out, we're 100% going out and looking at like who might be in a really good spot to have a product that they might not have the ability to actually do. They're a great engine, but we're the wheels and they've got the gas. So that's when I'm looking for a partner right now, we're looking outside to see who's spiking, who might have potential, and how can we help them scale? And we'll just be in the background doing all the lift.
Describe for us the partnership that you've experienced in your career at Santo. That has been really, really good.
Huh.
Even one out in the wild that you were involved in, which was a showcase of how to do it right.
There's a lot of good partnerships I haven't been involved in, most of them. But, I will say, I'll talk about right now, the national parks one, without going into financials. We are the first safety partner in the history of the national parks. Because it's not, they got some blue chip brands. And we went in there with one goal and one goal only. Very simple. We really care about the work they're doing. We have a product that we feel those 400 million people can use. We solve a problem for the parks, and then we take that back and I go, how does this, I'm not a KPI guy, never have been. There's some people who've worked with me here in the past. I spend money like a champ. I was the head of Beats by Dre's events for like almost a decade, so I know how to write a check. But although no one gets rich paying the bills. That was a founder told me that. But that's a good one. But the other part was like, this partnership really worked because it was very simple, it was very quick, and it immediately resonated with retail to the point of where, a PO comes in from a major retailer who's like, I want my store, all of my stores associated with not so much us, but the product and the partner. And that's the perfect case scenario, I think, of like just being quick, nimble. It makes sense. There wasn't back and forth. We respect their lines. They respect ours. Let's get to the retailer, get them excited, and everyone's happy. Like, that's obviously doesn't happen a lot, but I think when you're aligned on we're reaching out, but they would also want to reach out, now you're quick. There's no convincing or courting, really.
Sharice, give an example. What you've done, or what you've seen at home?
Yeah, absolutely. So the key product that I manage is our bespoke single barrel program called Private Selection. And that is, that is our premier variant within Maker's Mark portfolio. And the key to that proposition essentially is for someone to go out to the distillery, create their own bespoke liquid, right? But bring that back and tell the story of why they chose it. What were the tasting notes? What was the imagery of what they wanted? Whether it was a blueberry muffin or chocolate chips, right? And being able to recreate that and sell that or bring that back to their community. And so we have really great examples of that. I have one upcoming. I can't wait to announce. It's in the sports realm, but I would say one that's done well since we're in Texas is Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones has his own private selection. He does not sell it in retail. He offers it up to his suite holders, which again maintains that premium essence of it, and you can get it at an auction for quite a lot of money. But the point about that partnership is that it's sustainable. It's year over year. We've done that with Jerry. We look for partnerships holistically, not to just be a one and done. We don't want to work with you if you're going to go to Woodford tomorrow, right? We really want someone, just saying, we want someone that we feel like, again, is authentic to our brand and someone that can join our journey, right, of driving relevancy for the future generations.
I'm a big Cowboys fan, so I appreciate that comment. Yeah. Sorry.
Cowboys fan.
Oh, look at this. Elyse, social media is more and more prevalent these days than ever before, especially in sports. And it's probably changing how you procure, manage, renew sports partnerships. Can you tell us the role of social media in sports partnerships these days?
Yeah. I mean, I think so many brands choose to partner with a sports team or an athlete because you have the unique dynamic that I spoke of before of being able to reach someone in a live environment, but also sports is one of the places where, linear TV, we all know as marketers, still works quite a bit, especially in that appointment viewing live sports space. So all of us are craving that. But I think with social, you have not only seen all of Gen Z and younger millennials consuming not only clips on social, but the lives of these athletes and what they spend their time doing, their personalities, how they build their brands and their business. So I think one of the things we, find important as a team is to be able to have that storytelling capability. So we've shifted a lot of our partnerships to be able to, yes, get the impact and drive the reach and impressions through linear television and having the logos show up, et cetera. But really where so many brands want that experience of storytelling that they can scale in social. So we've shifted, kind of quarter turned a lot of our partnerships to include, a little content series with the athletes and what are they doing? We did a really interesting partnership with, our jersey patch partner, who's a fintech brand, Albert. And it was really about how the players budgeted and saved and spent their money and how it was interesting and entertaining because it talked about, you saw one of the players who's like, oh, half of my paycheck goes to my pets. I ball out on shoes or I spend money in this way. And that's interesting content for people to see. It helps, fans of the team who are not living in market where they can come to a game directly. So that has been definitely a shift into the ability to storytell around the players and their kind of the whole ecosystem of sports and how they operate inside it.
Yeah, speaking of storytelling and not, so you have this, not all your fans can come into the arena. It reminds me of being sort of in this South by Southwest atmosphere where we're seeing in real life experiences, pop-ups, collaborations that you can touch and you can feel. I'd like to get your point of view on how what's the difference between a fan that you can bring into the arena and a fan that's not in the arena. So you're only living by the content and that's it. I mean, not having the experience of looking and touching and feeling and being in the arena.
Yeah. I mean, it is, I look at it in that we have, the ability to have an experience and a show that luckily we can scale. And people, I grew up in Boston. I'm a huge Boston sports fan. I live in Texas now. So I am Pats Nation. It's different here. I am Celtics. And I'm able to be a fan of those teams and buy the merch, even if I'm not going to the game. So I think what we look to do from a partnership standpoint is create more fans who have a love of the sport, a love of the players, give them interesting retail opportunities. Can they buy cool merch? What are docuseries and stories that they can pay attention to? So it's driving that fandom. And then those people are sharing clips of the Dallas Wings when they see it on ESPN. And when something comes up on Bleacher Report or Barstool, they're sharing that clip. And then that's driving fandom overall in the social space, which just helps then bring more people into the arena and more people who are viewing. I think the biggest stat that I use is the average viewership of a WNBA game in 2025 was 1.2 million viewers. The average viewership of a and these are nationally televised games, average viewership of a nationally televised NHL game was around 440,000. So if you think about the eyeballs you're getting, we're able to give that fan the experience and the love of the brand and the team that they can watch and be a part of. So it's important for us to kind of create fans who visit and come to games and watch it, touch grass, and their feet are there. And then also on social too.
Jessica, if I'm a brand who I've never done collaborations at all, what advice would you give me?
I swear to God, if a bird lands on my head.
I got you.
Yeah, we'll come at it from both sides.
Sorry, it's so hard to pay attention with the birds whisking by. What advice would I give? Honestly, I think that more interesting collaborations these days are brands and creators. I think there's so much opportunity to bring new community niches into whatever the thing is that you are doing. And that is done through the lens of creators or brands that have really niche and engaged communities. I have never seen lines longer than when we do a pop-up with a sewing creator. Sewing fans are fucking die hard and they will show up and wait in line for 6 hours to get into this pop-up. And I never knew that, but you better believe we're going to do more with the sewing community because they are so rabid. I mean, I feel like there is this thing that is bred out of loving a creator and showing up for the thing that they are doing that a traditional brand, maybe in sports you can do this, but a traditional brand just can't get those kind of, engaged fans. And so I think the far more interesting collaborations these days will be with creator communities and brands versus brand on brand.
I mean, I just want to touch, I think that's such a great point because take the sewing collab, creator example, you can bring that into an ecosystem and Cherice could do a really cool partnership with someone who custom sews a cup holder or a capper for a bottle. We can do something with, someone who's doing a really cool custom piece of merch and it just opens up your brand to a completely different audience than just staying in your space. Yeah.
Santo, you have a point of view on that?
This is where we segue into my crocheting passion. No, that's right. I can only give an example of when what you're talking about years ago when and I'm going to throw it back to Beats. When we created the Soho store, which was not really a store, there was product, but it was not there to sell. I mean, we didn't have security systems. We didn't have a cash register when I opened it. We didn't have any of that. But we also didn't have a bag check. We didn't have a security guard telling you, put your hood down. We didn't have anything. And what we found was that space became lines around the corner just to participate, not necessarily in our product. This is, we're ahead of a quote unquote creator. But what we found was kids were lining around the corner to come in and participate in.
Why is that?
And just in that environment, not so much listening to my headphones. We didn't. And a fun fact, and it's one of the things if I ever get to say it, I bring it up. We had that store from 2011 fall to I think whenever the NBA All-Star was in 14 maybe, or something like that. We had no magnetometer. We had no, if you stole something and walked out the door, nothing would beep, right? I can say that now because it's closed. We didn't have one theft in 4 years. We were the #1 must-steal item by like New York Magazine. But that was because we gave people an environment that they felt seen and they felt safe and they felt respected. And I feel like in the sewing community, I don't know it well. I'm going to learn.
Yeah.
I make a fire blanket. There's some sewing there. But like, I feel like when you tap into a group of people who maybe haven't been felt or seen or been able to congregate or participate, like, boy, that is it.
Do you think some of that trust was a byproduct of the collaborators and ambassadors you chose for Beats?
I just think it was just because we were all at the time, and I was a lot younger too, but everyone was just like, what would we do? I don't want to walk in a store and check my bag. I'm not going to steal. But now you're telling me I'm going to steal. Or I can wear this outfit. I can hang and not buy. I knew everyone coming in that store didn't have $300. I knew it. So I did think that had a lot to do with it. And also we hired kids that we thought were cool, like to work. And those people then got jobs at Apple, by the way. We kept them. We had no turnover on an hourly job. And then we get acquired and we put them into like a great opportunity. But I think that has to do with it too. It's so lame to say authenticity. Like if you seek out authenticity, you're not going to find it.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really interesting point. We talk about authenticity at all, but I think what Santo is talking about is just trust, which is to me the biggest piece in creator and brand partnership, is that you have to trust each other and go into it saying that, like, I believe that we're going to have shared value creation if we work together on this, and I'm going to lean in and I'm going to let you be your authentic self, but I'm going to trust that, like, we're here not to mess it up and we're here to, like, both drive the same outcome. But that takes a little trust, which at first is risky, but then I feel like it drives a stronger outcome.
Now I want to hear from you. What advice would you give to a brand starting a collaboration effort?
And we talked about this in our prep, I'm one of few categories that is still founders are a part of the business, right? The managing director of Maker's Mark is the grandson of the founders. And so staying true to your values, your ethos, the core we hear it every day, right? If a partnership doesn't make sense for him, if it doesn't tie to his grandmother and her passion for design and iconic nature of the brand, then it's a no. And so I think what's critical is, and I tell anyone on any brand I've worked on, is what's true to your core. Sometimes you can get caught up in the hype of just trying to latch on to something, which is why for many years we didn't go after sports from a national perspective. Anyone could do it, right? But it took the right entity to say, wow, that actually feels so closely tied to the point where our suite in the Unrivaled Stadium is called the Founders Lounge, right? Is honoring our founder, honoring their founders, right? And so I think just going back to the core of your business, your values, again, we've said it many times, authenticity is really, really key. And I think for those that are looking to partner, do your research.
Yeah.
It's so many entities that come to us looking for partnerships, as you mentioned, and you can tell that there is a plug and play for them versus, hey, I noticed that you guys have actually design as a core pillar of ours because of our founder, right? So we have worked with craftsmen and, sewing. We've done sewing clubs and things like that. But if you do a little bit of research, you understand why we do everything we do. And you also understand why we wouldn't even approach certain types of partnerships.
Has there been an example of a partnership that you really wanted to do, but because of the legacy and the founder having control over that brand narrative for generations, that it was sort of somewhat difficult to get that potential collaboration through the system, as it were?
I'm grateful that our, again, managing director, Rob Samuels, who again is the grandson, he is very up to speed in the culture for the most part. And so he's amenable after a little bit of persuasion. I really want to lean into music personally as a brand because, again, there's a cultural resonance there. But, one thing at Suntory Global Spirits, which is important, Maker's Mark is under a larger portfolio, right? And so we have brands like Jim Beam, Knob Creek, we have tequila brands who play in those spaces. So that's something interesting to note about how we're set up as an organization. We try not to step on each other's toes too much. And so we allow our other brands to live and thrive in their own spaces. But we also are saying, y'all not touching women's sports, right? Maker's got that. So it's a little bit of push and pull, less around the founder, but more around us trying to balance a well-rounded portfolio of spirits, right?
I have a few minutes left. One last question for all of you guys, starting at the end with Elyse. Lightning round, quickly. What should a brand stay away from, absolutely stay away from, looking for brand collaborations, content creators, influencers, etc.?
That's a really good one. I would just stay away from, if it's 100% revenue chase, it's not right. If it's only done for dollars on both sides, it's not going to deliver what you need it to deliver. So that's the one thing I would stay away from. It's important to drive revenue, but you have to be able to have content that's strong and authentic and true as well.
I would say I'd rather end on a positive note on what you should run towards, which I think is just, Elyse said it best, like, make sure you're providing value to the community of the other brand that you are working with in addition to your own. If there's not a value that you think your brand can provide, it's probably not the right partnership. I think she said it, there's, if someone's just trying to make money or you're just trying to like throw a live event, you need an extra dollars, like those aren't the right ways to do things and to really run towards that value exchange with the community, because they will do the hard work for you. You won't need the paid media. You won't need any of the big ad dollars if the community feels loved, because they will be the distribution network for you.
I would say, I think so many of these big partnership decisions, and I've been on both sides. We had a huge deal with the NBA back in my days at Beats, and I activated that globally. I would say, and now I chase partnerships and stuff like that. I would say be informed, and oftentimes these decisions are made in such a small bubble at such a high level. You need to get down in your org to you better have the youngest person in your organization, at least have a meeting or two with people who might be the actual person who's consuming the content or the partnership or anything. And sometimes these partnerships they're sexy, they're fun. They let you go to the league office and have your meeting and do the thing and write the checks and all that stuff. But if you're not dealing with, and I'm getting up there now, so I know I'm not the audience. I'm straight not the audience. So I think be informed, like you said, but don't just be informed because, a bunch of 3 people in a C-suite figured it out. Get low. Get low and get young internally to see, is this something they're excited about activating or even watching? I don't know if that's lost, but. Okay.
Oh. Both. Okay.
Be careful.
I'll respond maybe just to echo, but also circle back. Don't just, again, I'm a leader when I say this, I promise. Don't just chase KPIs. But I say that because, again, all of us, especially my industry right now, we do need the sales, right? People are drinking less and we're monitoring. And oftentimes we take a very tactical, short-term approach to things just to get that sales overnight. But really the essence of brand partnerships is that longevity. Again, it's important for us that we have multi-year partnerships, not just something that we're doing for a season, because we truly believe we're trying to build that equity. Elyse, we used to work at Pizza Hut, not the same time, but the sales overnight, brand over time was what we used to say back in the day. And it still holds true. For a lot of our industries, it's just ensuring that you're not just so short-sighted that you lose the big picture.
So don't chase short-term KPIs. Don't chase the cash. Be informed. Show value. Yep. Excellent. All right. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
Ready?